Good evening. Today is October 24th, and welcome to the Peabody Public School Committee meeting. This meeting is being recorded by the Peabody School Committee's recording secretary. The matters listed below are those reasonably anticipated by the chair which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may be in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Before we start, we'll have a call to order, a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. We have the Burke School, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Levine.
Thank you. Would you all stand for a moment of silence, please? Thank you. If you would remain standing, please. It's my pleasure to introduce two of our outstanding students from the Burke School. Aiden Bacher is a second grade student at the Burke School in Miss Almeida's class. He is the son of Wayne Bacher and Suzanne Slater. He is a wonderful big brother to his sister Haley. Are you really? Are you a wonderful big brother?
Sometimes she does get me annoying and I get
The truth will set you free. Aiden enjoys soccer, karate, and technology. He loves to read and can often be found with an Archie comic. He enjoys vacationing in Canada and visiting Marineland. At school, he enjoys WMIR, writing, math, and independent reading time, because he gets to do all of his favorite things. He aspires to be a race car driver when he grows up. Welcome, my friend, and why don't you step forward? Would you meet him and join him for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Right there is good. Thank you, my friend. Cameron Turner is a second grade student at the Burke School in Mrs. Costa's class. He is the son of Hugh Turner and Kerry Lally. He is a wonderful, wonderful big brother to his brother Delvin. I'll ask you the same question. Are you a wonderful big brother? Yeah, okay. That's a good, strong yes. Cameron enjoys all sports, but specifically basketball, baseball, soccer, and lacrosse. He enjoys vacationing in the Bahamas with his family, and at school loves gym and health. Cameron aspires to play in the NBA when he grows up, and I'll only take 5%. Please join us as we're led in the Pledge of Allegiance by these fine young men. Gentlemen, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Ted Betancourt, sorry I'm late. I feel like I've been late for everything in my life lately. So I apologize for missing the Pledge of Allegiance in the moment of silence. Next, we'll go to approval of minutes.
Make a motion to approve minutes for October 10th, 2017 regular school committee meeting.
Second.
Okay. Further motion by Mr. Rosignol for approval of said minutes, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Next item is approval of bills. Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant A number 3617 dated October 24th, 2017 in the amount of $1,054,688.79, subject to audit.
Second.
Thank you. You've heard the motion for approval of warrant A number 3617, seconded by Mr. Rosignol. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Great, and we have a number of presentations today. I want to go to the presentations that our students are here for, to go to them first, so then they can get back home. If there's no objection, I'd like to move in that way.
No objection.
So what, Dr. Levine?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure to reintroduce Aiden Barker and Cameron Turner from grade 2 at the Burke, and introduce Akram Meechdi from grade 5 at the center, and Juliana Jules Talbot, grade 5 at the center, and from the West School, Reese Pena, grade 1, and Teresa Bellino, grade 1. If, folks, would you join us, please? You're going to talk about the science program, and I think you might want to come up here. Come on up here. Have a seat right here, and you can speak into this microphone.
You're just going to talk about your experience with science, okay?
For those of you who don't know, the mayor and the school committee and the city council allowed us to invest heavily in a brand-new science program, K through 10. The science program that was finally adopted after a 2-year study is the FOSS program, and it's being widely praised as a wonderful program by parents, teachers especially, and students most especially. So we thought it would be appropriate to have the students come tonight and tell us a little bit about their experience with our new science program. Who's going to start? You were the first up.
To me, science is really fun.
I'll get it. Yeah, you got it. That's good.
Science is fun. What have you been working on?
About types of rocks.
You've been working on types of rocks?
Yeah. And also like things like doing it. The first thing we did was rubbing rocks. Then we put the rocks in water, and then we did rock sorting.
Do you want to
Okay,
show?
great.
Do you want to show your pass around your notebook? Okay,
Yeah.
you can do that.
And who's your teacher?
Miss Almeida.
Yep, is she a good teacher?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're learning a lot? Oh, that's terrific. Is it interesting, the classes and talking about rocks and things like that? You find it interesting?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Excellent. So we'll pass your book around. Is that okay, so all the school committee members can see it? Excellent. I'll take that. Great.
Who wants to go
Thanks,
next?
you, Aiden.
Okay. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Cameron Turner. For science, we talked about the properties of science: color, size, shape, and texture. We did dust and put tape on it.
Great.
And Cameron, what's your teacher's name?
Mrs. Costa.
Yeah, I know Mrs. Costa. She's a good teacher, huh? Now, are you smarter than your dad? I know your dad. Are you smarter than your dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you are. And you're having a lot of fun? Has the science been very
Yeah.
good this year for you? Oh, that's great. Well, thank you, Cameron. Can we look at your book, too?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Who would like to go next? Okay, introduce yourself.
My name is Reese Pena, and I launched a feather with a straw.
He launched the feather with a straw
Excellent.
in his experiment.
Excellent. Do you like being able to experiment, to put your hands on things in the science class?
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good, strong yeah.
Well, I think this curriculum now is more hands-on, correct, for the students? They get to do more to work and experiments, things like that, to try to get them more engaged.
Yes.
That was why I know one of the important features to this new program that we put in. Yeah. And you enjoying yourself? What's your teacher's name?
Mrs. Connor.
Mrs. Connor, is she pretty good?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. That's
He's here
great.
tonight.
Good. Mr. Connor. Great. Well, thank you. Can we look at your papers?
Yeah.
Can you
Your
tell me
book?
what that is? What this is all about?
This is me launching a feather.
Is that your
Wow.
science notebook?
And you just did that with a straw?
Yeah.
Wow. That's great. Well, thank you so much.
Yep.
Would you like to go next, honey? Okay, why don't you,
Yeah, you take this.
okay, take the mayor's microphone.
Hi, my name is Jules Talbot, and in science we were learning about how the moon was formed and how much distance is between the Earth, Sun, and the moon.
How is it, a pretty far distance?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know that on a full moon, some people are crazy on full moons? My wife is one of them.
Wait a minute, move the microphone a little closer.
No, yeah. But do you find that interesting about the planets and about the sun and everything?
Yeah.
That's me. I love looking. I used to have, when I was little, like a telescope that I got to look at. I love that. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. What's your teacher's name?
Mrs. England.
Mrs. England? She's doing good?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. Can we look at your book too?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Who wants to go next down here? Want to go next?
Akram?
My name is Akram Mashidi, and in science we were learning about shadows in the beginning of the year, and now we're learning about how much distance is between the Earth, Sun, and Moon, and how big the Moon is compared to the Earth and Sun.
Oh, that's great. And what's your teacher's name?
Mrs. Andrade.
Excellent. And do you like doing more of the experiments and things like that?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
Thank you, Akram. Yeah. Introduce yourself, sweetheart.
My name is Teresa. We learned about air. And how can parachutes interact with air?
Wow, we're learning about air.
Oh, parachutes? Did you make a parachute as well?
Did you go in a parachute? Was that part of the experiment? No? I don't know. That's a little dangerous. You look like a parachuter. Great. What's your teacher's name, honey?
Mrs. Connor.
Mrs. Connor, too? Excellent. Well, that's
Thank
great.
you very much.
Yeah. Do we have any questions from the school committee members or anything that they'd like to ask of our students? No? Well, thank you guys so much for being here. This was a great idea. This is really helpful. Really awesome. I'll get you your book.
Good job, honey. Nice to see you again. Go on, Del.
Good job, buddy.
That's good job. Nice job, sweetheart. Good job. Great. Akram, good job, buddy.
Good job. Good job, Reese. Good job. Good job, honey. Good job.
That's okay. You did a wonderful job. I'm so proud of you. Good job.
Aiden just told me that he likes his teacher, and it's one of the reasons he loves going to school, is that she's really taught him a lot. That was great.
I did want to say that some of these kids were in a class that I read to last year, so obviously I made them who they are today.
Excellent. That was terrific. Mr. Hockman?
Yeah, thank you. This was something that we talked about at the last Education Subcommittee meeting, and I want to thank Ms. Mertag for coordinating this event tonight and getting the students here for the presentation. This is a big change in our curriculum. Having this new science textbook and the depth of science teaching that's taking place in early elementary classes, I think it's something we're going to reap the benefits of in years to come, and it's exciting to see how excited these young kids are about what they're doing in their classrooms.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Excellent. Next item, is there any other presentations that involve any of the students?
Yes, we have 2 awards that I would like to move to at this point.
Great.
I I would like to recognize Nick Kohler, the principal of the West School, for being here. Thank you very much, Mr. Kohler. And Jackie Alfanos from the Center School for being here. Thank you so much for being here. I don't know if any of my other principals are here, but thank you for spending your time with us tonight and being here to support your kids. Thank you. So, can you use this?
Sure.
The National School Development Council has been around for many, many years and is one of the most highly recognized professional education organizations in the United States. The New England School Development Council has also been around equally a large number of years and is equally impressive in the work that they've done in professional development and organizational leadership with teachers, principals, and superintendents over a long period of time. The executive director of the New England School Development Council has been a longtime professional colleague and good personal friend for 40 years. And these awards mean something serious and significant. They don't just go to anybody. They are awards that are handed out throughout the United States. And at Peabody Veterans Memorial High School, there are only 2 students so recognized. So I would like to read and introduce tonight the 2 students who have received these awards and their wonderful certificates that they can add to their resume as they apply to schools. We're very, very proud of these kids, and we're proud of all of our kids, regardless of level, whether it be kindergarten or 7th grade or high school. Our kids always do us proud. These are 2 of our best. So Ryan Comier will be attending a 4-year college, and hoping to earn a mechanical engineering degree. He's won the Outstanding Freshman Award for Band in grade 9, the Academic Achievement Award in Biology in grade 9, the Junior Varsity Coaches Award for Soccer for Exemplary Defense in grades 10 and 11, the Harvard Book Prize for Outstanding Junior Student Award in grade 11, and he's been a member of the National Honor Society in grade 12. His extracurricular activities include freshman soccer, junior varsity soccer, and varsity soccer, concert band, jazz ensemble, wind ensemble, UMass Amherst Minuteman Band, and math team. Apparently sleeping is an extracurricular activity as well. He is also employed at Shaw's Supermarket. He organized and distributed sheet music as band librarian in grades 11 and 12. He was promoted recently to customer service representative at Shaw's, and he's the trumpet in concert band, jazz band, and the wind ensemble. His community service includes being a high school helper for 5th grade honors band, tutoring for the National Honor Society, and setting up veteran plaques for the Junior Rotary Plaque Project in grade 11. He's also a school tour guide for freshman orientation, and he also participates with the concert band in can drives. So I would like to read his certificate. This is from the National School Development Council and co-signed by the New England School Development Council and Arthur Betancourt, who is the executive director, and also co-signed by me. And this award for academic growth and student leadership and learning is presented to Ryan Comier, who is the son of Michael and Vicky Comier, who are here this evening as well. Ryan, please join us. The Buckleys are here tonight to talk about 2 things, actually, to be here for 2 things. One is this, which will be their proudest moment, and the other will be to talk about the road race that the city of Peabody is very much involved in, and you will hear from them momentarily. Sarah Buckley is a senior at Peabody Veterans Memorial High School and ranks number 2 in her class. Her honors and awards include honor roll every quarter from grade 9 on, Bosch and Lom Honorary Science Award, which is a $10,000 a year scholarship to the University of Rochester, the Rensselaer Medal Award for Math and Science, which is a $25,000 a year scholarship to Rensselaer Polytech, the NSDC Award for Academic Growth and Student Leadership, which she'll be getting this evening, and she earned a score of 3 or better on all AP Statistics, U.S. History, Biology, and Chemistry tests. She is the class president from grades 9 through 11, varsity soccer grades 10 through 12, varsity lacrosse grades 10 through 12 and senior captain, varsity ice hockey grades 9 through 12 and senior captain, student council grades 9 through 11, ski club grades 9 through 12, and senior class helping committee grade 12. Her community service includes Challenger basketball and Challenger baseball. Her work experience, and this is her most impressive skill, she is an ice cream scooper at Treadwell's, and I didn't know that, but I will be up to visit you shortly. Scoop that big scoop for me. She has even taken a leadership position at Treadwell's in being in charge of dividing cash tips among fellow employees. Sarah, as well as Ryan, you represent us so well. We're so proud of you and all your accomplishments. We know that you're a rising star, and we congratulate you and your parents for a wonderful job so far and what we know will be a wonderful future. Sarah, please come up and give us. Mr. Mayor, the Buckleys are here to talk just a little bit about the road race. Do you want to come up and say a few words?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving us the opportunity today to speak to you about the up-and-coming Colton Buckley 5K road race. We held it now, this is our 4th year. We hold it every year down at the AOH the second Sunday in November. And we're here tonight more or less just to invite all the school committee members to join us. I know some of you have been there in the past, but again, we're here tonight just to welcome you again. Again, we began the race in 2014 with the hope of raising money and awareness about addiction and the stereotypes associated with it. Our goal each year is to raise awareness through education and prevention programs. As many of you know, we're losing a whole generation of kids to addiction, and we feel to stand idle, stay back, and pretend it's not happening is kind of naive. It's happening in our community. It's happening throughout all socioeconomic groups, and good kids, whatever. Our son passed away in 2014. He never so much as had a detention in school. He was an accomplished runner. He graduated from Bishop Fenwick and ended up making some poor choices and paid for his life. So we figured we'd bring our story out and, like I said, try to raise money for others who may be suffering and just try to stop some of the stereotypes that are out there and the labels associated with addiction. This year, though, we're excited to announce that we teamed up with the Citizens Inn transition from Peabody in the help of helping address the endemic problem of substance abuse in the community. The Inn is one of 2 sober transitional housing programs in the state. It can accommodate up to 8 families for 6 months at a time. The focus in the work of the Inn is to enrich the lives of children. Without a safe and secure home, it's nearly impossible to live a healthy and productive life. The funds generated through the road race has allowed our foundation this year to pledge $25,000 to help the Inn develop and build a children's enrichment program. The program will provide proper technology, including computers, tablets, a library. In this safe place, the children will be able to check out books, read, enjoy weekly story time in a safe, structured environment. We've also supported and continue to support Learn to Cope, which is a nonprofit support network that offers education, resources, peer support, and hope for parents and family members coping with a loved one with substance abuse issues. We support Foster Forward, another organization that offers many programs to improve the child welfare system. Donated to the the Beverly Recovery School, which is a school where students can earn a high school diploma and get support in their recovery from substance abuse. Once again, our community has been so generous over the years supporting our cause. Local businesses in our community, Gravock, name a few, Champions, Analogic, Bruce McCrory's, Treadwell's, Peabody Skating Rink have all been with us 4 years and have supported us, as well as City Council and School Committee and in members. City Council just actually pledged to walk as a group this year. They've been doing it over the last few years, but this year they pledged all of them were going to join the team and walk the race together. So I guess that's a challenge to the school committee members too. If you're available on the 12th and want to come down and outwalk or outrun the Peabody City Council, challenge is on. Again, now, we're just inviting you to come on down on the 12th of November at the AOH in Peabody. It's Sunday, and the race begins at 10 o'clock. So if anyone would like to come down and support our cause and help us out, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Todd and Lisa, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story, keeping Colton's memory alive, and for tackling this issue. This has been something I know that is really, just as you said, just destroying lives of good kids and people who, you know, are just struggling with everything that the opioid and drug epidemic has meant in our community. And I will be there on the 12th. Anybody else up for it? I think we need to have a good school committee showing, but to support this family and to support this worthy cause. So I wanted to thank you both for being here and sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Todd, where
Thanks.
can people register online?
Oh, yeah. You can register online at www.northshoretiming.com or coltonbuckley5k.com.
And even if people aren't able to make it, they
Oh,
can
yeah,
make
in the day
donations?
of, we'll have pre-race sign-up.
And they can make donations online or mail them to
Yes,
somewhere?
yes, correct.
Okay.
Thanks, Jared.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, as some of you know, some of you may not, my son was an addict in the early 2000s. He went to Peabody High School. He became addicted to OxyContin. We fought that battle right through the first year of college. And we did everything that the textbook would tell you not to do. We first denied it and then tried to hide it, tried to protect the family name. And the longer we did that, the more difficult his recovery was. This is an issue that has been too long in the shadows, and we need to get it out into the sunlight. It's the only way to address this problem and stop our kids from dying. I remember when my mother and father used to whisper about cancer in the early 60s. They used to say, she has cancer, as if it were going to come right through the conversation and somehow appear in our living room. I remember that. And we got very much away from that over a period of years, as we have a number of things, like AIDS. If you remember, AIDS was talked about in the same way in the early 1980s, before we understood it. Well, we seem to have such problem understanding in this society what drug addiction really is. It is a disease, and just because you make a poor choice, like you might make a poor choice with cigarette smoking, doesn't mean that we turn our backs on these kids or these people who need our help desperately in order to beat this thing. It is hard to beat, and once you beat it, you have to keep up with it. So I'm very proud of my son. He's been clean for 13 years. He runs meetings, and he's committed to helping other people. There are so many people out there that need help. Parents get so confused with this issue. So the only way to do this is to get it out into the sunlight. This is what the Buckleys are doing. I will be there on that Sunday. Race is not in my vocabulary. I'm going to have to look up that term. And I do have a Scrabble tie on. But I will be happy to walk a little bit and at least come down and support you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mrs. Dunn, did you want?
We can walk faster than the city council.
Ooh, we'll see. We'll see about that.
I'll pass that on.
Okay, and that was, Dr. Levine, that was very well said, and I know how open you've been. Really appreciate that. I think you've educated many, many people, me being one of them. Thank you for sharing that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is one presentation that's not on the agenda that I would like to get to, if I could.
Okay.
Our techie boys are here, and the reason that they're here is because we're going to finally show you a new website, or at least show you the what the new website is all about. I'm very, very proud of what these guys have accomplished. They've worked very, very hard, particularly one of them, who is a kind of a website guru, and he has worked over the last 6 months to develop this website and improve upon what we had already done. I think you will find it easily maneuverable and very informative. So, Mark, Chris, please take over. I'm going to move out here. That's our next professional development site.
All right, so it was,
Use the microphone.
Microphone.
oh, microphone. Which, any of them?
You can take it
That
out.
works.
Oh,
You're a techie boy, figure it out.
not audio. Audio video isn't my strong suit. All right, so I don't know how long ago it was that we've been talking about a new website for a little while, but over the last year, Dr. Levine approached the tech department and asked us to explore what it would be like if we were able to create a new website that was a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit more navigable. So that's what we intended to do, and we had three main goals for our design of the website. One was easy navigation, which basically means you are hit over the head with the things that you need to find. The phone number for the schools, the address for the schools, contact information for human resources, employment information, that type of stuff. We wanted to be front and center and in multiple places. So no matter where you are, you can find the stuff you need. One of the other things we wanted to do was the speed of the website, how many clicks it takes to get places. We didn't want to make links nested under links where you're clicking 3 or 4 times to get to something. We wanted to make sure that everything is, once again, front and center, and it doesn't take very long to get to what you're trying to find. And obviously we wanted to make the website look more modern. We wanted to make it modern and clean, and we didn't want it to look like a MySpace page, although I don't know if anybody, I might be dating myself on that one, but so during this presentation, I'm going to be talking a lot about what the tech department did, what we did, and what I really mean more than anything else is Brian Condon, who is another person in the tech department. We decided to go in-house and use the talent that we already had on staff, and Brian has done an amazing job with this website. It was really Chris and I telling Brian, hey, do this, do that, and he was doing all the legwork. He did a lot, 90% of this. So he's recovering after a trip to a red-eye home from California, so he's not here tonight. In order to get the information for the website, we met with department heads, we met with principals. We wanted to make sure that we were pulling over things from the old website that were pertinent. We didn't want information to be old. We wanted to make sure everything was current and important so that you're not cluttered. You have the things you need to find on your website. We also have created a streamlined process. In the past, the SchoolWire site was very robust. It gave the staff a lot of options to be able to edit their own websites. But the problem is maybe only half of the staff was doing that, which led to a lot of dead links that you click and they're just white pages, there's nothing on them. So we've created a streamlined process where we have a way that we have one person who is editing the website. You send your information to that one person and they are updating that. So you basically have what we've created like a content editor. So we're having another person double check all the content and making sure it's going in the correct places. So we're going to this has been live already, obviously, and I'm sure you have all seen it, but we're just going to run through quickly a little bit of what the website is and our reasoning for some of the different parts of it. So this is obviously the main page. We've got a picture right up here. We can do scrolling pictures, but we just don't have enough. We haven't had enough pictures yet to create a scroll kind of thing. Can you scroll down a little bit? Go back up. That's my logo in the upper left. I made that. All right, you can go back down. So latest news. Latest news is basically going to be blog entries, which are submitted by principals and department heads. On the main page, we're going to have a scrolling list of the most recent blog entries from these people, which are just basically going to be like updates about the school, what's going on in their schools, current events. They can update them as frequently as they want. I know Mr. Smoyer really likes to have things updated very, very quickly. That was one of his big concerns, was that he wanted to make sure that we were getting information up there as quickly as possible, and that's our goal. So if you click on read more, you're basically just seeing a little blur, like a headline of the news. Clicking on read more will give you the entire post. And then on the right-hand side, you can also see categories. So every post that gets posted goes into a category. So if you click here and you want to see all the blog posts from the South School, that's where you can do that as well.
By the way, if I could interrupt you, as long as you have that up there, I want to remind the community that we are collecting school supplies especially, but also toiletries, et cetera, to help with Puerto Rico. And the Kiley School will be open this week 9 to 3. To accept your donations. We are accepting checks and we are accepting gift cards from Walmart and McDonald's, because those are the two places that survived being open in Puerto Rico. Very few other places are. So whatever help you can give us, that would be great. You can also make donations to your local schools, and we will get them to the Kiley School. On Saturday, there will be a lot of volunteers putting these things together and getting them ready for shipment. So once again, the Kiley School 9 to 3 all this week, and any of your local schools, you can drop your stuff off to them as well. Thank you so much.
At the bottom of each page, we have a quick links section, and there's 3 tabs on each one: a parent section, a student section, a staff section. This is the main quick links, so these are things that are district related. So we have the student registration form, my school bucks, things that no matter what school you go to, you're going to need this information. Each school has their own quick links page, which we'll show you in a moment, which will have stuff like this as well as things that pertain specifically to each school. On the left-hand side, we have the Twitter page. Right now, we just have the Peabody Public Schools Twitter, and that's a live Twitter that Ms. Mertag handles. Some of the schools have Twitters. Other schools are getting on board with Twitter, and generally we've been having people retweet things so that everything from all the Twitter pages kind of show up here. But soon we'll be adding each Twitter account to each school page as well. On the right-hand side, we have the calendar. This is a district calendar. So in the past, we've had calendars for each school. So we don't have that anymore. Now we just have our district calendar. All district events, or all school events, that is, go to the district calendar. So that way, if you're a parent that has students at multiple schools, you can look at one calendar and say, all right, I have to be here and here. Or if you're a school committee member that wants to go to multiple events, you can see what your events are without having to click on multiple calendars. If you hit View Calendar, you can see it as a month view, which will show you all the information. If there's too many events on a specific page, it'll show 5 more, and you can click on, like right up there, you see view all events on that page, and you can go month to month on that. This is actually just a Google Calendar that's managed by Marge Maccarelli, and all events that she gets, she puts right up here so that we keep everything in one spot. Go back. And then at the bottom of each page, you'll see Show Schools. Show Schools will show you every school. So this is at the bottom of every page, and it's just another quick way to get to each school. It shows the address, a picture of each school, and then those are all clickable, which will bring you to each school page. So I am going to pass this over to Mr. Mitchell, who is going to talk to you about our navigation bar.
Hi. Oh, can I have that? Sorry we made everybody move. It's like getting stuck in the front row of the movie theater. So I'm going to very quickly take you through the nav bar along the top. Mark, if you could please go to the About section. The About section right now is just very simply the mission statement that we pulled across from the previous website. So people obviously are welcome to flip through that at their leisure. That's all that's up there for now. Administration, we basically have, thank you. All of central admin with their lovely headshots, and all their contact information, as well as the secretaries and administrative assistants are on there as well. And also at the bottom of that page, there's just direct link to Google Maps with the address for central admin, and those are actually on the school pages as well, which we'll show you in a second. Mark, could you please go to departments and go to athletics? Please click again. Thank you, sir. So this is a good example of a pretty complete department page right now. Every department page has the ability to put up some sort of image if they have one to provide to us. They have their general mission statement on there on the left. On the right-hand side is all the contact information for the people in said department, and then beneath that is any pertinent links that they've requested we put directly up on their department site. Mark, could you also please go to food services? So another option we have on some of the department pages, if you could scroll down to the bottom, we have a plugin where basically we have a section where we can post any sort of documents that departments need up there. And this plugin actually ties directly into just a Google Drive that we can give members of that department access to. So for example, members of the food services department have access to these Google Drives, and they can just add and remove menus, any other documents as they see fit. So they have full control over what's in here. They don't need to go to a content editor or anything like that. They can post and add and remove documents as they need to. They can keep the menus up to date without having to go through multiple channels. I believe Steve has a similar one we're working on right now. They're going to have all the HR documents up there, and they'll have full control over that as well. Let's see, what do we have next? So we'll just go to one school page. So let's do the McCarthy. This is an example of a completed school page right now. As you can see, we have an image of the building along the top. Currently, as Mark had stated, we have the district's Twitter feed on the left, as well as the district calendar on the right. The Twitter on the individual school pages may change in the future as more schools come on board and create their own. So the latest news on a school page is only news pertaining to that school. And as well as the parent, student, and staff links, you'll find the same links that we have on the main district page, as well as items that pertain directly to that building, for example, links to their PTO's Facebook pages, etc. So that is a school page. Mark, can we please go to So on the bottom of the school pages has the principal on the left-hand side, as well as a direct link to Google Maps showing the address of said school. Okay, now let's go to programs. So most of the programs, just so people are aware, aren't sites that we built. These are sites that are managed by people that run these programs. So these are just direct links to sites that are managed outside of the school system. And the CFCE page is a good example of a nice, complete, up-to-date site that we're linking to right now. Okay. Next would be the school committee page. So it's a very similar layout to the central admin page, which is just the headshots as well as contact information. Yeah, we're doing reshoots if anyone has any issues. We had to scour the internet for pictures, but you can blame Mark, he did that. So,
Actually, one clarification, I have 2 L's on the end of my name.
Oh, okay.
For my email address.
Okay, we'll fix that. Who dropped the ball on that one?
Yes.
We'll blame Brian, he's not here. What?
I want to write that down for you.
Okay. So similar to the Google folders that we just showed you where we're able to put, we're doing something similar for the school committee. So as soon as Mark gets back to the podium, he'll scroll down for me. And we have right now folders that Marge has the ability to manage for school committee agendas and minutes. And much like I just stated, she has the ability just to drag and drop any school committee related documents directly into those folders without needing to go through us. So she has full control over those. So the second she has those documents, she can put them in there and they're available on the site. And lastly, second to lastly, if you could please go to the employment link. This is just a direct link to the, I believe that's Talent Ed. Is that correct? So the Talent Ed webpage where people are able to view and apply for any available positions in the district. And then lastly, one feature that we have on here that we thought was pretty cool is up in the top right-hand corner, there's a drop-down for languages. Right now we have a handful in there, and we have the ability to add many, many, many languages. This is what we started with, and that drop-down will just automatically translate the entire page into whichever language people need to use. And we can add, so if there's anything missing, people are welcome to let us know, and there's 50 options in the back end where we manage that. I think that's it for what I was covering, so I'm going to turn it back over to Mark.
So this is basically the website. This is a work in progress. It's definitely something that we're going to be spending the year updating. So please, if you guys have anything you are missing, anything that you want to see that you don't see, let us know. Because we understand, we met with as many people as possible, but things come up, and not everybody thinks of everything right away. So we know that right off the bat. The one thing that we don't have, you want to go to guidance? The one thing we don't have yet is a directory for staff. We are working on it currently. Basically, it's just because it's just a lot of data entry work. We just got to manually input all the stuff in. But we do have a director for guidance. This is an example of what that will look like. Each school will have a directory with this information. Probably not phone numbers for teachers because we don't want them to be bothered in the middle of the day. But definitely name, title, and where they're located, as well as teacher websites. So any teacher website, a lot of teachers have websites right now in Google Sites. Some of them use Weebly. We don't want to restrict people. If they want to make a website, they can make it in whatever platform they feel comfortable with, and we'll link it right off the directory. So there'll be a field for teacher website if they have one. The one thing we didn't want to do is force every teacher to have a website. If they're not ready yet, if they're still working through Gmail and they're still getting used to Classroom, we don't want to force everybody to have a website day one. So this way, we don't have a bunch of links that click to teacher websites that aren't completed or aren't done yet. We have the ability to add those later. So I think that's pretty much the website. If there are any questions.
First, I just want to say tremendous job.
Thank you.
It's almost like a dream come true. I mean, it's easy to use. There's tons of information. And what about downloading an app? Like, is that easy to?
So how we've designed the website, how Brian has designed the website, is created a responsive website. So instead of requiring an app, when you go to the website on your phone, it will automatically become a website, a mobile version of the website. So it'll make things, in fact, this is kind of what it looks like. It gets rid of some of the things like Twitter, and it kind of formats it in this way. So because people, not a ton of people use an app, will go to download an app. We saw that with SchoolWires. We launched the SchoolWires app, and it just wasn't, the downloads weren't there to justify paying that extra money for it. But if we could create a website that would responsively change itself to a mobile browser, we thought that would be a good solution for now, at least.
Again, a great job, really, everybody involved. And, I mean, if somebody was looking to come to Peabody and they wanted to know about the school district, I mean, it literally has everything. The special education link, you click on it, it specifically says what programs are available at what school. I mean, it's really tremendous, and I'm sure everybody feels the same way, but thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. It's wonderful. Honestly, this is really going to be so helpful to everyone. We discussed it last night at the Parent Advisory Board meeting, and it would be part of my normal report. But just so you know, many of the parents hadn't realized that we had the new website. So a bunch of them pulled it up, and they were thrilled that, as you said, when they pulled up the app, it matches. Now it is the website, and they were really very happy about that. They were pleased about that. They were very complimentary about the calendar, being able to look at the calendar, especially for the parents with multiple children at different levels. They said a lot of the same things you did. It's crisp, it's new, it's very clear, very quick. And I think you've done a phenomenal job on this. And I know it's a work in progress, but you have done so much already to make this very user-friendly. I actually spoke with Marge last week, and I asked her, I said, what's the difference for you? And she said, oh my goodness. Marge was explaining to me with the old website that she would have to do 8 to 12 different steps to upload, for example, upload our agenda or upload our minutes. And she said, now I can do this automatically. I can see it. It's already, she's already got the minutes up there. And she was very pleased with this because she said she'll get the 2017 materials on that website very quickly. And she's already planning to go back 2016 and 2015 before it just couldn't be done because of the time that needed to be taken. And it's very important for us to be able to have that kind of information out there for people to be able to look at it and to be able to see it very quickly, very cleanly, very clearly. So congratulations on a job well done, and thank you very much. People are really very positive about this and wanted you to know about that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, in addition to the things that have already been said, great job. I'm glad to see that you guys are smart enough to secure funding for maintenance and continued development of this website by putting pictures of the superintendent, the mayor, and committee member Olympio on the homepage.
Excellent job. We certainly needed a new format for our webpage, and you guys did an amazing job. I just have a couple of questions. I know you mentioned that there's going to be one person in charge of updating that. Is that one person per building that's going to be in charge of their building, or is everything going to funnel through one individual?
So how we have it worked out is we have a Google form that we've created, and we've sent that form to all the principals and all the department heads. So basically what it looks like on their end is when they want something added to the website, they fill out that form. They say, I want a blog entry, for instance, or a quick link. This is the title of it. This is the body of it. Are there any pictures you want to add to it? And they hit submit. It then goes to our content editor, and our content editor just does a second look on it just to make sure there's no errors or that we don't need to ask for clarification, and then it goes on the website.
So what would be the turnaround time for I want something on the website, it going to the editor, and then it going onto the page? Because I know one thing that has happened in the past with the other site, and mainly because it was so cumbersome to use, the I want it now turned into it gets posted after the event already kind of happened. And so will the transition from I want this on the webpage to whoever's in charge of putting it on there be seamless, be timely, and be effective?
It should be same day. I mean, it's going to cut down just the amount of clicks. You have to, for the old SchoolWire site, there's so many clicks this is a lot of it is just copy, paste, and post, because the templates have been built ahead of time. So everything is template driven, so you just find the template that it goes into, post it in there, and put it up there.
I'm sorry. The other thing I know that's been an issue in the past is the schedule for athletics at the high school being accessible. And I know the schedule that they had for the fall sports wasn't compatible or wasn't able to be a hyperlink. I don't know if that has been ironed out.
So we have this, we met with Bob, and this was the link he gave us, which has I believe it has all the high school and middle school information on it.
I believe Kathy Strange manages
Okay.
this website.
Excellent.
Yes, but I mean, that's completely up to date. On the website submissions as well, anything anybody sends through that form, just anything anyone sends through that form, apparently I don't talk loud enough, automatically populates a response sheet. So as long as that response sheet's being monitored and we can be notified whenever any responses come through, whoever is doing those updates is immediately aware.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Actually, the next question I have is to you, Dr. Levine. For the, I believe it was the programs page that is not necessarily part of our district, who's going to be in charge of overseeing whatever content is on that?
So you want to pull up the programs?
Because I know that that's not necessarily anything to do with our school system.
So some of them are, not all of the programs are outside, so it depends on who, if there is a department head. So for instance, Career Technical Education is Jody Norton, CFC is Donna Conley, Communities High School, FKO is their site, kindergarten would be Deb Murphy. So it's all the department heads of the people that, so some of them are, like if you click on the kindergarten site, Chris, some of them are, like the ones that are in district, the people that don't have their own website, they actually do have a website that we make. So it's just like, for some people, like the CFCE already had a website. Okay. So instead of making them rebuild it.
Okay. So there won't be any advertisements or anything through that?
No.
If I may, they are ours. I mean,
okay.
there are people, the only one that really isn't is FKO, and they always send something to me first for review.
Perfect. And then, last question, again, to Dr. Levine. Can we have a flyer go home to parents that aren't English speaking so that they know that there's a drop down so they can literally access this and have the information at their fingertips?
That's a great idea. We'll take care of that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is amazing compared to where we were.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If there's no objection, if there's no objection, I would like to go to public participation now. We have some parents that are here today that would like to speak on the topic. If there's no objection, if we could go to public participation next.
No objection.
Great, thank you. We will need a microphone, so Mr. Rossignol. So folks, please come forward. Any order that you'd like to come up. As I mentioned, our rules of public participation that we operate under do not allow us to engage in a discussion because it's not on the agenda. But we would afford you the opportunity to speak on the topic of your choosing, and then we can maybe discuss if it's something that we can take up maybe in a future meeting. But please, sir, if you just come forward and introduce yourself.
Can I stand?
Sure, you can take the microphone though, just so people at home can hear you.
My name is Vicente Sotomayor. I live in the Centerfield neighborhood, and my son just started 9th grade, and we live 1.8 miles from the Peabody High School, and I know the policy is 2.0 miles, so we fall just a little bit short under that. So my concern is that winter's coming up, and the bus policy says that a Safeway should be provided for students, and with winter coming, The sidewalks aren't shoveled, so my concern is safety. People don't shovel their sidewalks. A student walking to school could potentially get hit by a car, right? I don't want that to happen to my son. I don't know if you guys have school children or not, but if you did, I would think you could empathize with my situation. I know time is tight. I'm not asking for you guys to enter the Centerfield neighborhood and add 7 minutes to the bus route. All I'm asking is for 6 seconds at the corner of Ridgefield and Lowell Street, where 20 school buses, not 20, but maybe 10 or 9 school buses already drive by. Open the door, let my son out, let him come home safely. So I think it's a simple request. I did some research today, and the town of Beverly provides buses to students who live 0.4 miles away from the Beverly High School. So I'm wondering, gee whiz, Peabody's better than Beverly, so why can't Peabody match something similar to that? So I'm asking for, I think, just a 6-second stop, less cars on the road, more money for the Peabody school budget, and safety for the kids. So hopefully I've made all my points, and I got through.
Okay.
So
Well, thank you, Mr. Sotomayor. We appreciate you being here. Thank you.
and I ask for this to be reviewed at the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Welcome. If you could please introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Erica Stearns. I actually live right next door to Benny Sotomayor. So my daughter, again, we live within the walking zone. And I understand that they're not in the policy of adding bus stops because you're afraid of adding the delivery time either home or to school. But I want to point out that my daughter's been taking a bus since she was in elementary school, and her bus has arrived late at the school since then. So this is already happening, and I'm not trying to change the current stops that are already there. I'm just saying this is a situation that's already happening, and if we need to get these kids to school, get them home, the most important part is we get them there safely. Now the bus stop that is being offered to us, we live 1.8 miles in one direction to the high school. The bus stop that's being offered to us is 1.1 miles in the opposite direction. So for $200, we're going to have our children walk the 1.1 mile home, which would include them crossing that Lowell Street 128 exit, which is a right turn only. So when the cars come off the exit, they're looking to the left to merge onto Lowell Street. And I would probably propose that everybody in this room knows somebody or has been in a rear-ended accident because they were doing that very same thing. They're merging onto the road, and they think the car in front of them has gone when it hasn't. So they, boom, accidentally hit the car. What happens if the thing that is run into is our children? That's neglect, okay? We are, as parents and school committee members, responsible for giving our children safe ways to get to school and get home. I work a full-time job, as does my husband, as do these other folks, okay? We're at work when they get out of school. We can't pick them up. We're able to drive them to school in some situations. I can't speak for everybody. We're able to drive them off, but picking them up, regardless of the weather, they need to get home some way. Okay, so it's not just the winter and the snow and the ice. It's the danger of the car. It's the danger of the people who are texting when they get off the highway, or the music's too loud, or they're just simply not paying attention. And if they cross the street to go on the other side, they have to cross 2 exits. There's no safe way to get from Forest Street to Centerfield or Proctor Circle without crossing the highway exits. Just letting you know that.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones.
I am going to sit down. All right. My name's Scott Latalian. I live at 34 Proctor Circle. I'm also following along with the information that was spoken of tonight. Can add a few just other things. I actually, first and foremost, the website that they showed tonight, I can highly endorse, because the last 2 weeks I've found out more information. So I definitely think that's a very good resource. But I got involved with this basically because one of the moms was talking to another mom and saying about the about this issue and that's there. I got involved because it's very simple. When I got the letter saying that the pay to ride that we have had the last 2 years available in this area. Okay, so it has been there. It's not a new premise. Okay, went and I talked to the transportation head, Ms. Bresnahan, and she basically said, no, it's cut and dry, 2 miles, and that's it, according to the Mass Chapter and Law. Okay, went back to it, took a look at it, and it is there, guaranteed through K through 6. Okay, but, well, so what happens when they get to the 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade? Much like one of the other parents, I took a look at some of the other city websites from Salem. Salem offers 7 to 12th grade 1 mile. Okay, so they're doing a little bit more than just the simple, okay, this is all that's needed, is just what's coming from the state. All right? Beverly was mentioned. Some of the other cities I looked at too, at Lynn. You're talking about different sizes of cities on the North Shore, and I understand that. But we're right in the middle. Okay, we're not as big as Lynn, we're not as probably small as, maybe a little bit bigger than Salem or Beverly, or comparable, but they are dealing with it, okay? When I did go in and I took a look, and I sent out an email to everybody here, like some of the other parents have, and the pushback that I got was it was almost just a standard answer, this is the way it is, cut and dry. And I said, well, transportation, shouldn't that be, is there a protocol? Is there a policy standard? And someone said, well, yeah, look at the website. Well, I went to the website and it showed the bus routes. So not, the pay to ride in here that offers it. Okay, it says that there's no bus stop in the area. As you guys just heard, yeah, there is. Okay, the one that they are talking about, okay, is exactly what one of the parents said. It's under the, okay, you've got to go under, you have to cross underneath that overpass. Okay, I walk that, I run that. I've been running there for 20 years up and down Lowell Street. Okay, I take my own life in here. Now, it's understandable that, the way it is right now, and that's if it's within a mile. So if that's the one that's closest to Castle Street and down by Forest, that's a safety issue. Okay, so that is where I kind of started to look a little bit more, get a little bit more curious about it. When you look at some of the buses, again, a multitude of buses going right by the area we're talking about. 80, 90%. That's actually been confirmed by the transportation leader, Bresnahan. I took pictures, empty seats, okay? Not just one, okay? If you go down, you take a look at that, okay? They are there, a lot. I asked her, and she said the response back was, well, I mean, they do have bus passes. They're just not on them. I'm off on every Tuesday. So the last 3 weeks I've taken a look, stood at the end of my street. watched every single one that goes by, okay? They're half used. If you have parents who are willing to spend the $300, because it's our kids, we care about their safety. That's why we do, and we have no problem paying for the extra books, paying for the Kleenex that the teachers ask for, that they need in the class. We understand there's many, many, many more important topics you guys have to deal with, okay? But for the parents, we put in our children's future and molding in your hands. But they got to get there safely, and they got to get back home. And it's not the old days where you had one-income families. We're both working. Everybody in my neighborhood is. Two parents. My wife works in Boston. I don't work around here. I'm going to have to make other accommodations. So, all right. So that main road that they're walking, 30 miles an hour, and there's one part that's 40 miles an hour. That main drag, that's the second heaviest traveled area road in Peabody outside of downtown. And it's not as congested as some of where the other schools are, okay, and I can understand that. So where this topic may have come up prior, okay, and probably a multitude of times, when my son's walking on a day like today, any of the kids that walk on a day like today, no problem. They get in their exercise. That's perfect. We live just the same thing, just under that 2-mile point, okay? But again, I've been out there. A lot of people have seen me, have seen other people out there on the snow days. Those are the days that are my biggest concern. I love, 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 and appreciate the fact that Superintendent Levine takes so much concern for the schools and for the kids to take that initiative to take an early day off for the kids' snow day. I think that's perfect. But on those days where the snow is piling up on both sides, we have the little bobcat shovel thing that does one side, doesn't do both. I think last year I saw it once or twice do both sides of Lowell Street during that part, okay? When I'm out there and I'm running, all of the dangers that we just talked about, that you heard, the piled up snow, the side streets that people come down from Prospect Street to Baldwin to all the way down, okay? Those side streets, people are not taking the time to look both ways. Mounds of snow, these are kids who aren't already seen, okay, because they're shorter or whatnot. So those walking in the street, that is my concern. That's my biggest one, okay? That's kind of what drove me to come here and do this. So I understand that there's, I can understand where there could be a little bit of, like I said, maybe it might be easier just to go by what's existing as as the standard that you guys have, which it looks like it's just the 2-mile. But as you can see from, like I said, some of the other school districts, they have other, I think the term would be contingency or some type of a written plan, as I saw on the website. Unless there is one out there, I didn't see them. We have all the bus routes out there, and that's fine. That's where I specifically went down to the transportation office today, and that's what I asked for, just like, what do you guys have? So we do know, and again, you send out the notifications to the parents about anything that's updated and appreciated, but, and then I asked Ms. Bresnahan, and I talked to a couple other people here. Well, why, again, if they've had the bus for the last couple of years, why suddenly is it not available? Okay, and someone said, well, it's because of the medical. I said, well, all right, so what if one of our kids has a medical right now? Would they be eligible right this second after getting rejected? And she said, well, no, we can't do that. So, well, why not? She said, well, the bus routes are already there. And again, like one of the other parents have said, we're not asking the transportation to change, to alter any, no adjustments. It's a simple thing within that boundary of almost 2 miles, okay? Safety is the key. We're not asking for a luxury. This isn't a luxury. You're getting your kids to school. You guys spend most of the time here discussing curriculum, tests, budgets. If your kids aren't there, you know, you'd be talking about nothing, right? So, I mean, I think those are the biggest, those are the biggest concerns. And like I said, the other parents have been very eloquent about it. This is not a new thing, and I'm sure this has come up a million times. This is the first time I'm involved or even paid attention much, because this is the first time my kid's involved in it. We followed the rules exactly the way it has been set up. I guess, like I said, we didn't expect to not have a bus. There are routes that I know my household could go in order to try to make an appeal for the bus. But that's not fair to him either. You know, that's not fair. Just on the principle and the merit. And again, I understand that if you let one person come in and make an exception, then you might have to take another one, and another one, and another one. Okay, well, maybe if you, again, maybe there is a place out there where the criteria that you take of, you know, maybe, well, okay, if it's not that 2 mile, well, are there other extenuating circumstances outside of just a medical? You know, and if there is, then, you know, maybe should take, you know, maybe a different approach somehow. I mean, like I said, I'm not an expert at this. Like I said, it's not a new thing. You guys have talked about this stuff before, I'm sure, a million times. But, you know, like I said, I just a little befuddled myself. It doesn't add anything to the expenses of the city. It adds, you know, every parent wants to add something, you know, so you guys have so you have more money to play with for this. It's not adding anything, like I said, anything to the time. It's been existing. It's already been there. It's been there for the last 2 years, and from what some of the neighbors have said, it's been there in the past, not just in the last 2 years, but this bus stop. I know it's year after year after year, the school changes, the number of students there, people graduate, et cetera, so I know that's a big process over the summertime. But you know what? Things happen over the summer, over the school year, you know? So, do you guys not address those either? I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, and it's just, you know, as
Well,
much,
thank
that's
you,
pretty
Steve.
much all I say. As much as these other folks have said, if this could be, I don't know, I guess discussed in a move to committee, or however you guys do it, to maybe just to take a look at it again. If the only justification is that this is going to open a Pandora's box for other parents, well, I mean, you guys are elected officials. You guys are not new at this. You guys are pretty darn good at this. You know, I mean, our taxes pay for this. So for you guys to come together and you know, solve these things. All we're not asking for much. I don't think. We want to pay you guys, you know, just to have our kids safely do it so we can work and not have to worry about, you know, getting out of work and make other arrangements. Only during, or at least my concern, just on the really bad days. That's it. Come up with a criteria then. Or what constitutes a bad day, you know? And then make it a contingency thing, you know? If not a day off, then okay. I don't know. All right, that's pretty much it. I'm sorry if I took so much of your time.
No, thank you. No,
I
I wanted to-
appreciate you guys very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Letalian. Okay.
As you can see by my uniform, I know what it's like to walk in the snow and the ice, and I know Lowell Street.
You just introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Joe Stearns. Erickson's my wife, and I live next door to him also. I know what it's like to walk in that, and I know Lowell Street. And I see that sidewalk right next to the guardrail, and I picture it in the winter being plowed, and my daughter walking up the street, and a chute of snow coming over from the snowplow plowing down the street. Okay? And coming home soaking wet. Not to mention just that this isn't the 70s, the 80s, and 90s anymore. Everybody's got 2 cars. Kids have cars now. I didn't get a car till I was almost in college. You know what I mean? This isn't the day of the one income, like he said, the one income home where there's one person driving around. Everybody's driving around. The roads are huge. You know, as a kid, you could go out and play, and you never had to stop a game in the street. Now you can't even do that anymore because there's cars everywhere. And Lowell Street might as well be turned into the Indy 500 too. People fly down that street. They're trying to they see the light starting to turn red. Boom, they're turning up to go to the mall. They're coming around the corners here. It's a nightmare in that street. And to say that the street will be plowed and the sidewalks will be plowed every time, again, look at my uniform, I can guarantee you there will be days it will be not. And I don't want my daughter to have to go, or what they'll do is, well, my sidewalk's pretty much plowed, but, you know, the snow piled up, so I couldn't get around that to the next house. So now my daughter's got to walk out in the street and around a snowbank to get back onto the sidewalk. It's a fact. To say it doesn't happen, again, I can tell you for a fact it happens all the time. Now, I deliver in Marblehead, which that's a whole nother issue. They actually have a law that they don't have to shovel the sidewalks. But it happens. You know, a couple of years ago with 100 inches of snow, I usually always have my sidewalk all the way down. That 100 inches of snow, I couldn't get it all the way down. I actually had to break, it took me 4 days to break down the pile. It's gonna happen. And I don't want my daughter to have to walk out in the street. See, those are the good cops. I'm more of a bad cop. I don't want my daughter walking the street. If I find out she has to go around somebody's thing because it wasn't plowed and it's not being enforced or it wasn't cleaned, I get an issue with that. That's my child. You know, and this is just, it's a different day and age now. You know, 2 miles is a long way, especially, it's not like the high school is on a street that's not used a lot. Lowell Street is nonstop from 24 hours a day. You know, it's a major cut through. People use it to, if they don't want to go 114, hey, I'll take Lowell Street because it's a lot easier than 114. Shoom, right through to Salem. You know, and as far as the bus stop at Forest Street goes, my wife had said, I deal with that every day when I go to work, and I see it. The people come out and they turn, and they're just looking that way. They're not looking that way for someone that's walking this way. And I have seen it, people walking, and they almost get tagged by a car because somebody's not paying attention, not expecting someone to be crossing the street. And it's just a matter of safety. And like I said, when I have days off, I go and pick up my daughter at school. And I drive right behind the buses that come out of the high school. And I watched 11 drive right by that spot near Proctor Circle and Centerfield neighborhood. And the other thing too is you put a stop there, you open it up, you're talking Centerfield neighborhood, the Arboretum, Proctor Circle, up to some of the houses that live off of the road that goes up to the mall. There's a lot of people that might say, hey, geez, you know what? You open up a stop there, Jesus. You know, I'll do that. And nobody's asking for anything for free. We're willing to pay. Nobody wants anything for free. I'm sure there are people that will do it. And it's just this day and age and the street, it's a matter of safety for the kids, especially in the wintertime. Because I can guarantee you there'll be times when it's not going to be clear for them to walk.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stearns. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. You know, I certainly suggest and think that this warrants a review of the policy. I think there's been some very good points made, so I would ask that, I'm not sure exactly, it'd probably be best.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we move this matter into the Quality and Standards Subcommittee.
Thank you.
Second.
Heard the motion by Mr. Hockman to put it into Quality and Standards Committee for further discussion and review. Seconded by Mr. Rossignol. All in favor?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. So we'll notify you as to when the meeting will be set up. And we understand winter's coming, so we'll try to accommodate and try to make it a meeting in the very near future. But we probably would ask you to come back to that meeting. So then, at that point, under our rules and regulations, then we can engage in a discussion and have a back and forth and maybe talk this through. So we'll let you know when that meeting is going to take place. Okay? Thank you for coming. Thank you. Okay, next item would be continued business. A couple items. The first one is the MSBA Higgins project. Mrs. Dunn, any review or any update?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the Higgins School Building Committee met last Thursday for our monthly meeting. Some of the items that have come up is, just to let everyone know, that the fields will be usable in spring of 19. Those are the new fields on the site of the old building. Right now, they're working on adjusting the irrigation. They want to make sure that the drainage is proper on the field, and they also want to make sure that the irrigation system is working properly. They are working on the back punch list, which means the punch list is actually, if I say it, I'll jinx it, but they're not generating a new punch list. Right now, the items that were on it are being addressed, and then that comes back, and the architects go through the building to make sure that those are completed. This is all in preparation also for the commissioning, and we had an interesting discussion about the commissioning process for the building. The commissioning agent has a list. Most of the issues on that list are warranty issues, so the commissioning agent will be coming through, looking at various systems in the building, and then it's kind of like parallel to the punch list examination. Once everything meets the criteria for the commissioning, then the building itself will be commissioned. And that in itself is one of the procedures mandated by MSBA. So it's actually an oversight which helps our district, because it's another set of eyes making sure everything is right up to 100%. So that will be a report that comes in to the district as far as what the status of the commissioning is. Everything right now is being driven by deadlines to wrap up the project. So the architects and the owner's project manager are looking at all of this information. They are putting together the report so that we know exactly where we stand, where every item is, and then they will give us a final presentation in preparation of giving that to the MSBA. So the goal for that report is for everyone to have their information in by November, and then the report will be generated ready for December so that it can go to MSBA in January. We also discussed the bowl. That is now what we're calling the area out front. The area that everyone talks about with the various varieties of grass and plantings at the front of the building. So they're working on trying to come up with an adjustment to make that look better. They are sending out the mowing schedule for us. We're going to be working with the Recreation Department, and the Brian Grant is giving some good information on that. We'll be working, I know he's been working with Mr. Healy on coming up with a good plan. One of the things that people need to realize, honestly, that area, believe it or not, you can say it's an area, it's a work in progress, because they have to get the plantings established, and anything they do to that needs to go through the Conservation Commission. That is a huge piece of floodwater mitigation for the full city. And so it may not look nice at the moment, but it will by the time we're done. It's just one of those things that it's taking some time that no one really anticipated. It's something where there are a lot of ideas about how to address it, and we just need to have someone that can really give us some good advice to make it look nice, but also to be able to do the work it's designed to do. So that's ongoing. And then people had questions about the great big sign in front of Higgins, the digital sign. The small digital sign on King Street is working wonderfully. Mr. Busey is able to post messages on that, and it's a scrolling digital sign. The one out front, they are trying to repair a fiber optic cable, and they are trying to figure out what happened to that cable in the installation of the sign. The sign is on, but somewhere between the building and the sign, there's a problem, and they can't fix it at the moment, and they are actively looking into a solution for that, and they will come back to us at the next meeting with their determination on what's going to happen. So our next meeting will be November 16th at 4 p.m. here at Higgins. That, again, is always open to the public, and we really are winding down on this project. We know that probably in the spring we'll only have to have a few meetings, which will be specifically about the irrigation in the fields and, again, the grass seed. But things are really coming along very well.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Next item is the superintendent search, and I asked Glenn Kuchar from the Mass Association of School Committees to be here for this discussion. I'll give Mr. Kuchar a moment to... Bev, would you be able to maybe have him sit next to you? Okay. Actually, Glenn, come on up.
You're replacing me, so I might as well leave.
Welcome, Mr. Kuchar. I'll let you get settled. As you know, we had put out the superintendent position. We posted the position. That closed on October 6th, I believe. And I know Mr. Kuchar and his staff have been going through the applicants that he'll speak to in a moment, and is ready to make recommendations to us as to the 5 finalists. Our motion earlier was to move forward or seek the recommendations from the MASC and then move forward with the interviews, and we were looking for 5 finalists. So with that, Mr. Kuchar, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We were given instructions as to select 5 candidates whom we believe to be the top candidates. It's a very, very difficult decision to make in narrowing the field to 5, but I think we did come up with the people that we genuinely believe were the top 5 candidates. I'll identify them for you in alphabetical order so that there's no preference. But I will just tell you that all of the candidates who are being recommended would be first-tier candidates in any district looking for a superintendent. They also, in addition to their academic and professional credentials, come with very strong recommendations from very credible people in their district, and also are cited for interpersonal skills and understanding the human side of this work. So again, in nothing other than alphabetical.
15 total?
There were 15 total candidates who submitted complete packages under the deadline and submitted all of the material that was required. The first is Sean Gallagher, the Assistant Superintendent in Wilmington. Mr. Gallagher has a Bachelor of Science and a Master's degree from Salem State University. He has broad experience as a principal, including service in Beverly High School, as a dean at Salem High School, and as a special education teacher, and as a teacher in general. He's been an athletic director as well and has experience in collective bargaining. The second alphabetically is Dr. Susan Kustka. She is the Assistant Superintendent in Weymouth. She has a bachelor's degree from the University of Massachusetts and a master's degree and a doctorate in curriculum, teaching and learning and leadership, also from Boston College. She has been a teacher over 15 years, including experience in the classroom and with special education. She's been a building administrator and is now in her 9th year of administration. Number 3, sometimes if something is not as complicated as you say it is, we'll joke and say it's not rocket science. Dr. Alexandra Montez McNeil is a rocket scientist. She has a bachelor's degree in aeronautical and astronomical engineering from MIT. But her ambition was to become a teacher of science and to go back to Boston and teach, which was Boston Latin, which inspired her to become a teacher. So she got a master's degree and a doctorate from Boston College following her bachelor's degree. She's been a STEM teacher for 10 years in the Boston Public Schools and is now an instructional superintendent in the Boston Public Schools. Number 4, Kara Murtagh, Assistant Superintendent in Peabody. She has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree from Manual College, has been a teacher, a building administrator for 12 years, a central office administrator for 5 years, and is a specialist in curriculum instruction and assessment. As I said, all of these candidates would, in and of themselves, with their criteria met and their credentials, be a first-tier candidate anywhere they happen to be. The fact that Ms. Murtaugh is a member of the faculty in Beverly is coincidental to the fact that she's put into the top 5. The 5th candidate is John Perella. He's the headmaster of Medford High School and wears 2 hats as the headmaster of Medford High School and the headmaster of Medford Vocational Technical High School. He has a bachelor's degree from UMass and has an MIT and doctorate from the University of Massachusetts. He has been a teacher, a vice principal, and a principal, and he's also an adjunct faculty at Tufts University. His specific credential that puts him in this field is he has experience with both the general high school and a vocational technical program. All 5 candidates come with very good references. We're providing to the district the complete package of each candidate electronically. I believe you will have them tomorrow?
Yes, I will have all for the 5 finalists, their whole packets. I can have that for you tomorrow, first thing. Thank you. So we had 15 candidates. These were the top 5.
Correct.
We can have the packets for you, as I said, further tomorrow. The next step would be, if we wanted to move forward with these recommendations, would be to schedule interviews. I suggest that we, to kind of keep our time frame, to look to schedule these in November. I know we have an election coming up, November 7th. I think probably shortly thereafter, I think would be a good time to maybe start to schedule these interviews. I did speak to Mr. Kuchar before, and I asked him to contact each of the 5 recommended candidates, and all 5 were comfortable with their names being made public. And I know, that's important. We wanted to make sure that was clear. And I know you personally spoke with all 5, and all 5 were ready to move forward with their names being publicly known as finalists. So certainly any questions for myself, but obviously Mr. Kuchar has much more of the information. And we have 5 very strong candidates, it seems, with those credentials. So open it up for any questions or comments. Mrs. Dunn, then Mr. Rosignol.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One question for Mr. Kuchar. Glenn, are there other districts who are currently on the same time schedule that we are as far as interviewing for their districts?
Actually, you're ahead of pretty much everybody at this point.
Okay.
I can guarantee you
Competitive here.
that if these candidates wish to pursue the superintendency, I would be very surprised if all 5 of them aren't superintendents by the end of the academic year.
Very good.
But that's not unusual for the first district out of the gate.
Okay. It's good to know for us as far,
Your intent was to move quickly, so.
right, as far as scheduling interviews and the whole process. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Rosignol?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your hard work reviewing 15 applicants, and thank you for the list of 5. I appreciate your hard work. So,
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rosignol. Mr. Olympio?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kuchar. How many candidates had previous superintendent experience?
There were 3 candidates who have previous experience as a superintendent.
Okay. And
they're not in this mix.
okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Carpenter? Thank you, Mr. Olympio. Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you. So moving forward, I was very comfortable with the process that we used the last time. Were you suggesting that we pick some dates and start the interviews in November? Is that what you said, Mr. Mayor?
I was going to make that suggestion just to keep us on the time frame. I think we're in a very good position. Mrs. Dunn asked a good question in terms of timing. I think we're in a very good position that we have 5 very qualified candidates, and we're out ahead of others that might be taking up this process, in the months ahead. So, I was just thinking that we want to keep us on a timeline, and I was thinking, mid-November, we can maybe set up a few dates, and then I was comfortable with the process last time as well, but certainly that's a decision we need to make as a group, to invite them in for interviews. I thought we asked some very good questions, got a lot of information. It was I thought, a good process, but that can certainly be altered if there were some other ideas.
No, I'm definitely in favor of that. I'd like to move forward and start picking some dates and setting up some times if we can.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. Mr. Rosignol?
On that point, me personally, I'd rather have all of the information in front of me, and we're not going to have that until tomorrow. And then our next meeting is scheduled for November 14th. So, well, I'll pose a question to the board. Do we want the information before us, before we start scheduling dates, or are we comfortable with going forward as is without anything in front of us?
What do you mean?
Besides the presentation that Mr. Kuchar got.
Did you want to see all the applications?
I just want something to review before we move forward with all the candidates, some of the candidates as a group. We now have 5 people in front of us. And Mr. Kuchar did a fantastic job giving us a quick synopsis, but that's all it really is. We don't have the references in front of us. We don't have their past experience in front of us. We have a piece of paper that I just wrote on in front of me. That's all I have to go on. I don't necessarily feel comfortable setting up dates for these 5 finalists without seeing if, you know what, I like these 4, I don't necessarily like this one. I like these 3. I don't want to necessarily go through all of it unless that's what we all feel is pertinent.
The vote was for 5.
And then
so that's
right.
I kind of feel like we need to follow and have 5 interviews. I feel that to not do that, particularly after, well, I understand your point. I mean, you're going to have them tomorrow. I mean, these interviews aren't going to be until mid-November. I think, we talk
That's why
about
I
some
posed it
dates.
as a question.
Yep. It's a fair point. Mr. Amico?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair to committee, and I do understand what Mr. Rosignol's saying there, that, we don't have the resumes and transcripts and so forth in front of us, but I do agree with you, Mr. Mayor, that it was part of the motion that we would bring 5, and that was the number that we would interview. So I think we should move forward and schedule the dates. Mr. Kuchar and the MASC did their part. They brought us 5 candidates, so I think that's what we should go by, and let's, as far as I'm concerned, we can schedule those dates.
Because the other option would be, the other option, okay. Thank you, Mr. Amico. Mr. Hockman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While I certainly respect and understand Mr. Rosignol's concerns, I think we need to move forward. And I would propose, if you're asking for dates, Mr. Mayor, November 8, November 13, as 2 dates we can schedule interviews. That gives the candidates ample time to determine their schedules. And I would leave the...
That's a Wednesday, the 8th, and a Monday, the 13th.
And then I would leave the, we're going to have a different number of candidates each night, and I'd leave that up to Mr. Kuchar to coordinate through the MASC to determine who would be available. I think the preference would be to do 3 on the 8th and then 2 on the 13th, for me at least, but I'd like to get them done before our next school committee meeting, and then at our next school committee meeting be able to either discuss narrowing the field or site visits at the candidates who were attractive to us at their interviews.
Anybody else have any thoughts on dates?
Those dates are good for me.
Mrs. Dunn?
Those dates are fine, but I was wondering if anybody would be amenable to 8th and 9th, have them 2 days in a row.
I'm not available
Oh,
on the 9th,
okay.
I'm sorry.
There was a school committee, a city council meeting that I would have difficulty missing on the 9th. The 8th and 13th would work for me, but Mr. Amico, you all set, Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Amico?
Through the chair of the committee, on the 9th, I know that opens up that long weekend, and to be fair to the candidates and anyone else who might be doing any kind of traveling or whatnot, I do like the 8th and the 13th, and then be able to reconvene on the 14th at our school committee meeting, so I think those dates would work.
Mr. Olympio, that works for you? Mr. Rossignol, you see any concerns? Okay. Wow, that was easy. Okay, so, Mrs. Carpenter, can I ask you to make the motion that, or who's it, Mr. Hockman? Actually, can you make a motion to, for the MASC to reach out to those 5 candidates to schedule interviews for Wednesday, November 8th and Monday, November 13th?
So, and make a motion to schedule interviews for the 5 candidates for superintendent for Wednesday, November 8th, beginning at 6 p.m.?
Can I suggest?
6:30?
Well, certainly, one night's going to be 3 interviews.
Right.
If you started at 6, it would be 6, 7:30, and 9. If you started at 5:30, that moves it up a half an hour. 8:30 is better than 9 if you've done 3 interviews. But I don't know what people's schedules are.
I can be here early.
Okay,
6
so
o'clock.
I would make a motion to schedule interviews for the 5 I'm going to yield to Mr. Rossignol.
Mr. Rossignol?
6, right?
Would it be possible if we flipped it and did 2 on the 8th and 3 on the 13th?
I was going to leave that to the description, if
Yeah,
I may.
that's easy, but still, if
I'm just unavailable
Yes.
at the first, if
Oh,
we
you
move it
mean
to 5:30.
maybe we could do it a little bit earlier on Monday, the 13th?
Yes,
So 2 on the
the
8th.
9th, or 8th, I'm sorry, and then 3 on the 13th.
So as I'm making this motion, I'm going to move that we do, that we schedule superintendent interviews for the 5 finalists. 2 of those interviews will take place on Wednesday, November 8th, beginning at 6 p.m. And 3 interviews on Monday, November 13th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. at the Higgins Library. And the candidates will be scheduled or contacted by the MASC and scheduled in accordance with availability. So moved.
Second.
Heard the motion by Mr. Hockman, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Great, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Kuchar.
Mr.
He
Mayor?
came in, just to let you, he was traveling, his plane just arrived at 6, and he came straight here. So I really appreciate him making that effort for us to make this process move forward. So thank you, Mr. Kuchar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? This is just for clarification, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Dunn?
Just for clarification, when Mr. Kuchar was speaking and he said that Ms. Karen Merteg was a member of the Beverly staff, she is the Peabody staff.
The Peabody staff.
Right, but you're looking at me, and I
I don't
know...
want you to think that somebody from Cambridge doesn't know Peabody from Beverly.
I know. We're the center of the universe, Glenn. You got to get it straight.
Now, there is one thing that we'll need to prepare, and that will be questions for the interview. So what I would suggest, now you can prepare your own questions and ask them on your own. Or we can also compile them and organize them for you. There is no law that says you have to ask everybody the same questions. But if you would like, we're very happy to compile the questions and organize them for you. But that means we'd have to have your questions submitted to us. Probably, if you're going to start on the 8th, we'd probably need them by Sunday night, before the 8th. So I don't know what you want to do about that, or how you want to handle that.
I think last time you prepared some questions for us as a guide, and then I think we utilized most of those questions, and depending on the candidate, I think we maybe tailored a little bit to that specific candidate. I was comfortable with how it was done last time.
Okay.
Mr. Hockman, to you.
Thank you. Just to be clear, Mr. Kuchar, you're saying that if we wanted to utilize MASC to draft questions, we'd need to submit them or compile questions, I should say.
What I would suggest
By
is
Sunday.
that you get to me any questions that you would like us to use or prepare or edit by November 5th.
That's right.
And then if there are any gaping gaps, we'll prepare some additional questions. But, and we usually give people till the end of football, so that would be 7 p.m. Just before 60 minutes, but after whatever's going on. Actually, I think it's a bye weekend, so.
It is.
But if I could have them by 7 p.m., and I will send the mayor and the superintendent a communication just to get it around to you. And then we can have the questions submitted to you ahead of the interviews, and you can use them or not.
Mr. Rosino?
Thank you. Through the chair, to the chair. Should we compile our questions and send them to you so in case there's any duplicates?
Yeah, we'll organize them and resolve that. And if you don't have my email address, it's gkucher, K-O-O-C-H-E-R, @masc.org, and I'll send something to the superintendent tomorrow, or the mayor, and ask them to get out.
Great.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Kuchar. Great.
This is just going to take me a minute to shut this off and get out of your way. Actually.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is public excuse me, we've already done that. Let's go to Superintendent's report. Dr. Levine, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, the exciting part of the evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I would ask Jared Stanton, our business manager, to give us a quick update on the POS system district-wide.
Through the chair, I will be quick. So it's been a full month since all 10 schools have been up and running with the new point-of-sale system. All of our food service staff went through extensive training. Most, if not all, of the hiccups have been resolved. And based on all of the feedback that we've received from staff, from parents, it seems to be a giant success. Last week, I was here at the Higgins Middle School at the Family Forum, and I gave some individual trainings as well as some group trainings on the My School Box website, and it's extremely user-friendly. I just want to highlight real quick some important features, a lot of the common questions that I'm getting. My School Box allows parents to view all transaction history. It allows for low balance alerts. It allows parents to add notes for cashiers, such as, if little Jared, he can only get one bag of Dorito or one cookie, the cashiers will see that. It also has a phone app. So you have access to it 24/7 if you're in a bind and you need to add money so your student has a positive balance going into lunch. I think it uploads within an hour, if not sooner. So that's a real good thing. Another thing I got, how secure is My School Box? It's protected by the highest industry standards, PCI, CISP. Another thing, I'm sorry, going on too much, but another thing that I'm getting is when parents sign up their students, they must put in the student's name that's on the birth certificate. So if it's hyphenated, they need to put in that hyphen. Even if they don't use that, whatever's on the birth certificate is what the system recognizes. And lastly, under the food service section on the website, we're going to have some frequently asked questions as well as some answers. That's a work in progress, but I'd like to think it would be up by the middle of next month, if not sooner. My email address is up there, as well as Maureen Rose and Christine Flynn, and I welcome people to continue emailing me with any questions that they have.
Thank you, Jared.
Questions, Mr. Rosignol, then Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Miko?
I just have two. Siblings, do they have to have their own account? Can there just be one family in a
So yeah, it's actually, it's great. You can have, the parents can manage multiple accounts under one account, actually, multiple students under one account. If your student goes to, say, Essex Aggie, they use My School Bucks, you can add that onto their one account. I'm not sure if Bishop Fenwick has that, but I know that Essex Aggie uses My School Bucks. And when you go on the website, you can go on and see all of the schools that currently use My School Bucks.
We've been trying to institute the POS system for some time, so I just want to thank you for getting this up and running. And I know it's not a small task, so I appreciate everything that you're doing. But I want more. When do you anticipate athletics or transportation being part of our POS system?
Tomorrow. No, I have, the plan is hopefully over the summer, if not sooner. I've been talking to Mr. Gingras, and we want to consolidate all of the different POS systems that we currently use. I know that My School Bucks allows for all of this, so it is definitely an early winter project that I'm going to look into, and I will talk to Dr. Levine and give updates throughout the winter.
Through the chair. We were hoping for the winter season, but it seems like there's a few hoops we have to go through in order to make it happen. So hopefully by the spring and certainly into next year without a question.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rosignol. Mrs. Dunn, then Mr. Amico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last night at the Parent Advisory Board meeting, several questions came up. One is, could you make sure that all schools are utilizing the same payment arrangements? One of the elementary schools was told they can't submit checks, and yet the others are allowed to put in checks at the, I guess, at the school. And is there a reason for that, or is it something that you could just make, make every school have the same process?
Wave a what magic wand. Make it happen.
Make it happen.
The goal is, right now, there has been a lack of good communication from my department on that.
Oh.
So I'd like eventually to be cashless as well as checkless. Some schools are allowing checks. I think eventually we're going to set a deadline on that. The reason for this is there's we've received a number of bounce checks, and the problem is when a check comes in, it goes into the My School Bucks system, and then we find out that the check might have bounced 7 to 10 days later. That money has already been spent. So you can always pay right now cash at the registers. We have cash on hand there to give change. But I will give an update when I talk it over with the admin team on a cutoff date for checks.
Okay. If I could, Mr. Mayor and Dr. Levine, if I could go through just a couple of the questions. They would have come up at the PAB report, but they're very pertinent for this. One of the other questions were about students that are running up a negative balance. Do we have a standard amount that when someone hits that a call goes out, or what is the process on that?
Right now, we're reviewing every single negative balance in the system because the system allows us to view that. It's staring us right in the face. We are making phone calls, really anything in a negative. The food service staff, myself, we've gotten the principals involved, but we're really taking it, the food service and myself are making the phone calls, and we'll get the principals involved if we need to. So the goal is to not have any negative balances going forward. We would never deny it a lunch or anything. A la carte items are denied if it is a negative balance, but right now, again, we wouldn't deny a student with a negative balance at lunch.
And actually, I'll be honest, a question came up about the a la carte items. It's more of an issue at the middle and high school because they don't have that at the elementary school. So that was, there were questions about that as far as contributing to a negative balance or 2 or 3 that people had discovered from their students.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I may add to that, Mr. Mayor, we're committed to getting control of the negative balance district-wide, both as individuals and as a unit, cafeteria unit. And we're doing a very good job at that. Because the POS system, which Mr. Rossignol, I think it was the first thing that you spoke to me about when I came back for the second, third, or fourth time. And it has a number of advantages, and this is one of them, that we can actually track what we haven't been able to track in the past. And we are taking action. And I did want you to know that the reason that we try not to use principals to make these phone calls is principals need to have these relationships with parents that aren't around something negative like that. So we've taken at central office and through Jared the initiative to make those phone calls. But we are on it. Every single negative balance we are on.
Okay.
Well, that makes
Thank you.
sense.
And you know, there was one more question. I'm looking for it here in my notes, and I can't find it. I'm going to ask my committee members. The question about the IDs, the freshmen have not received their IDs yet. Is that impacting on the lunch at the high school for freshmen? It came up in a different discussion, but
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I thought the IDs had already been created. They're certainly being created district-wide.
Right.
And I haven't heard any, do we know whether or not the IDs are in the hands of freshmen? We'll have to find that out.
okay. All right, thank you. And can you remember anything else?
No.
I've got the notes
No,
here, but I'm missing that one.
Those 2 points, but I don't remember anything else on that.
Ah, I know why. It was at a different subcommittee meeting. Never mind, it'll come up later in the conversation. But it affects this too. Sorry.
It's all right. Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Mr.
Thank you,
Biko?
Sorry, I had 2 questions, but my counsel took care of it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn, for taking care of that.
Any other questions on the POS system, Mrs. Dunn?
Actually, it's a little bit off the point of sale, but normally the school committee reviews the prices charged for lunch, and honestly, I can't remember the last time we did that, but I think it might be time for us to do that, so I'm going to plant that seed right now, if you'd like to come to us with that. I know it's an involved conversation, and it might be time for us to look at that in light of the fact that we've got the point of sale, just to reevaluate the prices charged at all levels.
Through the chair, I'll make sure that we send that all to you electronically for the next meeting.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. And this is excellent for our school system, and we've all been a part of it, but I do want to thank Mr. Rossignol publicly for his work in making this happen. You were in front of this, great leadership on this issue, and it's becoming a reality, and I know it's making a difference in helping. So I just wanted to thank you and recognize you for the work that you put into this. So thank you, Mr. Rossignol. Turn it back to you, Dr. Levine.
Thank you. Just for your information, the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship recipients are listed for you in the packet. Field trips, I have approved one, denied another. I would ask for your approval to Philadelphia from the high school, April 19th to April 22nd.
Make a motion to follow the recommendation of the superintendent.
Are we taking this as 2 separate items?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
First motion made by Mr. Rossignol, seconded by Mr. Amico for approval of the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania trip. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Abstain?
Yes.
The The second field trip is one that I denied, and I put it in your package so that you would have the information in case you got any phone calls. Our policy allows for an appeal to you to overturn my decision to deny. I would ask you to table this until I have a chance to process this. I want to meet with the kids at the high school. I love their parents, and parents have contacted me, but quite frankly, it's not the parents that would change my mind. The kids, however, I've gotten some wonderful emails from some of the kids, extremely respectful, very well written, very courteous, with some very good points. The biggest point of all is that it's going to Ireland and Scotland and not mainland Europe, which seems to be a much safer place, Ireland and Scotland, than mainland Europe these days. I at least want to meet with the kids. I'm going to ask for a meeting and hear them out. If I maintain my position that I'm continuing to deny, then the school committee can do its will. But I'm asking you to hold off until I've had a chance to meet with the kids.
Thank you, Dr. Levine. Mrs. Carpenter, did you have a comment?
Yes, through the chair, Dr. Levine, thank you for that. My motion tonight, assuming that you're going to be meeting with the students or the parents before the next school committee meeting, was going to be to table this until the next school committee meeting. Is that a good date for you?
That is.
Motion to table the field trip request to Ireland and Scotland for Peabody Veterans Memorial High School.
Second.
You've heard the motion by Mrs. Carpenter, seconded by Mrs. Dunn. All in favor? Oh, Mrs. Dunn?
I just want to thank you, Dr. Levine. I think that that's really commendable that you're going to meet with the students and let them speak with you, because I think that in itself is a real educational experience for them, and I'm glad you're going to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Hockman?
Yeah, I would just ask the superintendent through the chair if you can make the date of that meeting and the time of that meeting available to the committee members.
Sure will.
We may benefit from that discussion as well.
Absolutely.
And if enough of us are able to attend, we could post.
Okay, great. I'll
Okay.
take care of that.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Mrs. Dunn?
I don't know if we should go, but I would say if anyone did go, that we as school committee members should not participate in that conversation and merely be observers. I think it's important for the students to be able to speak with Dr. Levine on an equal basis. And I think that if any committee members did go, that it might prove difficult going forward. So if anybody did go, I would just suggest that you go as an observer and not participate in the conversation, but just listen to the conversation.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the packet, you have a hiring status report and a budget account update. They're standard that we provide for you. If there are any questions, certainly feel free to ask either Mr. Farrell or Mr. Stanton. And I have one thing that's not on the agenda that I would like to pass out and speak to, just a few minutes, if you would.
Motion received.
Second.
You've heard the motion. All in favor? It's a vote.
So the MCAS scores came out, and I need to explain to you and the community what's happening here. First of all, we went total technology where we could last year, which means that we are totally held harmless, grades 3 through 8, regarding accountability status. Whatever their rating was last year, it is this year. Nothing would change no matter what the scores are. But in between last year and this year, MCAS has changed a bit, and we're calling it now MCAS Next Gen, or Next Generation, so that some of the questions are different. It's probably a combination of MCAS and PARC, but more importantly, the ratings are different. They have come up with a different rating system, and the rating system, instead of advanced, proficient, needs improvement, and warning, are exceeding expectations, meeting expectations, partially meeting expectations, and not meeting expectations. Now, you would think that they match each other, but they don't. It's a different way of assessment, and nobody can really explain at this particular time, which is not a problem, what that way is, what that formula is. Folks are just getting ahead of that. But one of the things that I need to tell you is that if you look at some of the scores in our elementary and middle school, for example, you might think that our scores dropped. Well, that's not necessarily the case. What's happening is that some of the kids who would have scored proficient last year and this year under the advanced proficient needs improvement and warning system are now maybe falling into the partially meeting expectations category because they have created what they call a tougher standard for meeting proficiency. We don't know what that means yet, and it doesn't impact us here at in Peabody grades 3 through 8 because of what we did last year. Keep in mind that in 2019, everybody throughout the state will be taking this online. We will be 3 years ahead of those school systems that have not gone technology yet. We're set to go. We'll be set to go in the spring again. We're in very, very good shape because of your vision, the resources that have been available to upgrade our schools technology-wise, both infrastructure and through Chromebooks. We are in very good shape to meet those demands. I do want to say that if you look at the high school scores, there is good news to be had. Our scores have improved, and more importantly, the points toward accountability status has improved dramatically. Let me explain that to you for just a minute. If you take a look at the last page that says official accountability data, the high school is the only school in our school district that is still on last year's accountability system because the 10th grade was not available to go technology last year, so they kept the standard the same. They didn't tinker much with that. What I would draw your attention to is the points awarded, kind of in the middle of the page where it says total points awarded. And if you read across, it says 350, 550, 3 1/4, and 6 1/4. What has been dragging the high school down is the score from 2014 because it counts for 4 years. And for 4 years, it counts with a weight. So 4 years ago, it had a 4 attached to it, which meant it was weighted a 4. 3 years ago, a 3. And now it will be a 2 and a 1. And next year, it should be dropped completely from consideration. The 350 points that we earned in 2014 really dragged the rating system down for the high school. And because it's a growth model over a period of 4 years, that 350 points drags our growth for all 4 years that it counts in our system. However, if you go across to 625 points for this year, we have significantly grown. Now, by the way, I'm sure there are people at home, and I know Mr. Hockman's eyes are glazing over about this formula and this system, because when it comes right down to it, I don't want to say it doesn't mean anything. It does. It has its place in the assessment program. It definitely has a place. It does not determine, by any stretch of the imagination, what our kids do and what they're able to do and how successful they will be. Because as we know in today's world especially, being able to get along with other people, being able to work in a team, even being able to estimate things, using common sense and good judgment, goes much further than some of the things that are tested on this test, which will never test those kinds of character issues or integrity or honor or dignity or decency. We know that that's what makes a great person. A test is 1 point of time for one child under one circumstance. However, the good news is that we did receive 625 points this year, or an average of 89, which is much higher than we've ever been in the past. That will help us moving forward. This is what determines whether we move from 3 to 2. So eventually, when we drop the lower scores and we add the higher scores in the 4-year average, we should meet our target. We're pretty close, by the way. We're only a few percentage points away now. However, I will caution you. The one area where we still struggle is in the specialty areas, ELL and special education. Even if one subgroup does not perform to its standard, the whole school remains in the standard that it's in, which is level 3. So we have work to do in each individual subgroup. I will tell you that the majority subgroup, which is Caucasian, has exceeded the standard. So we're getting there. We just need to work a little harder, a little longer, and have those scores continue to go up. But I want to congratulate our high school. The general public doesn't understand the intricacies of what goes into these scores. They just see a level 3 and think it's not great. The intricacies of these scores tell us that the high school has moved tremendously over the past few years. They're working very hard at it. They're taking it very seriously. And I want to commend not only the administration, but the classroom teachers who are doing all they can to move us in the right direction. We're continuing to move in that direction. NEASC accreditation process will help us. The process that we're going through now district-wide with the state, they are here for 4 days, doing a whole system review will help us. We're moving in the right direction. There's a lot of optimism. You should be happy with the results that we have just received this year. And with that, I will stop for any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Levine. Mrs. Dunn?
Just 2 points. Thank you to all of the staff who work so hard with our students, and thank you to the students who work very hard to take these exams. Trying to explain the MCAS scoring and the level to other people, it's so difficult. And honestly, last week we were explaining it to people, and I was thinking, this was on Tuesday night, I knew Wednesday that the information was going to be released by DESE and that the rules had changed. And I think for most people, the simplest explanation of dealing with MCAS for a district would be, I know you all like sports analogies, this would be like Bill Belichick being the coach and the goalpost being moved every time someone had the ball. And as soon as people figure out the rules, they change the rules again. So everything that we have learned about MCAS, all of the explanations about how a district is leveled, those are all changing again. And it brings me to my second point, which is, well, first I do want to thank you all for playing a sport where the rules change every time you're ready to win. The question that I have is, what I had read on the new evaluation was that school systems are going to be judged, one of the criteria will be on the number of students who attend college, that's going to be a component of the new evaluation. Do you know when that's going to come into play?
Don't know.
Okay.
We haven't got that information yet.
Okay. It actually, I think it just came out from the commissioner. It may not even have been implemented yet. I think it's been approved, and now they're working to issue the language on that. I'll be honest, one of my considerations and one of my concerns is that, again, the goalpost got moved, and that personally I don't think a school system should be judged on how many kids go on to college. That is one measure of success. Not everyone's going to go to college for any number of reasons. One of the first is that that's not what they choose to do. Our job is to get everybody ready to go out into the world and to be able to make a choice of what they're going to do with their future. And we hope that when they go out the door with their diploma, they're ready for whatever they want. But to know that a district will be judged on that type of criteria absolutely infuriates me, because once again, the system has been rigged. Because we come from a city where people have all kinds of backgrounds and make all kinds of decisions, and they go on to be great people, whatever they choose, whether they choose a college education or they go into the workforce. There are other communities with 98% of their students going on to college. Those are very wealthy communities. And if that's going to be the only criteria that a school system gets judged on, we are already, in this community and in the others around us, we're already going to have a problem. And I've got an issue with that. And I think DESE needs to reevaluate their policy. I know I'm going to find out more about it next week at the MASC conference, and I'll bring back that information to you, but I am going to tell you that I think that with that type of an evaluation coming, once again, we're going to be trying to explain to people how our system is judged, and it's judged on false information.
Through the chair, if I could, I would hope that the state is going to weave in the students who decide to go to school a year from graduation or 2 years from graduation.
Right.
They take a detour. They go to work or they go into the military, and then they come back and they say, yeah, I'm ready for school, I'm ready for college. Is that going to be woven back into our rating system from those years, from the year that those people graduated? Because that happens in Peabody a lot.
It does.
And it happens throughout the state a lot. It's kind of like judging, I remember when Salem State College University now was being judged poorly because people were graduating in 6 years and not 4. Well, a lot of people go to school for 6 years because they're doing other things. They're bringing up children, they're working full-time. That's a false measure. So I'm wondering if they're going to do the same thing to us.
That's what I'm wondering, because, as you said, it can be a false measure. And, you know, if we were a wealthy community and someone chose to graduate and then go to college a year later, that's called a gap year, but not for the rest of the world.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. All set, Dr.? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Rosignol.
Just one quick question. I know you said the 10th grade basically used the old format, the standardized MCAS. That's changing for this year or for next year?
Through the chair, we have chosen that everybody will be on a technology-based exam this coming year, which means that it should change for grade 10 if they're ready for next year's results.
So through the chair, how does that affect the Abigail Adams scholarship? How does that change?
I don't know the answer to that, through the chair.
And that's why I kind of laugh at a lot of these newfangled tests and this, as Bev put it, is, you know, basically changing the deck chairs on a Titanic. We had a fantastic system in MCAS. You understood what it was. It was a benchmark. It was a graduation requirement, which I don't necessarily agree with, but it was a standardized test to make sure our students are learning what they need to. And now, once communities have really learned and mastered their way through MCAS, they decide to change it for, in my opinion, no good reason, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's funny, because every time we ask a question, I'm not sure. When MCAS was first implemented, it was implemented with a plan, and a strategic plan, and goals, and benchmarks. Since, and I'm going to wear my Dave McGeaney hat for 10 seconds, since Park 2.0 or MCAS, whatever we want to call this, at every turn, all it's been is, well, let's see what they're going to change. Let's see how this is going to play out. Let's see what's going to happen. Instead of a plan in place, instead of goals, instead of a true direction to drive education. So I guess we'll wait and see. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosignol.
Through the chair, if I could just summarize very quickly, and I don't want to give a doctoral thesis on standardized testing, but throughout the United States, the history of standardized testing has been the same. You're asking the same question that somebody in Alaska or Oklahoma or Kansas would ask. Every 7 years, the goalposts are moved, and the reason is kids doing too well. And eventually, if all of your kids are in proficient and advanced, then what's the sense of continuing testing? You've reached your goal. So they move the goals. And that's basically the history of standardized testing. And I'm not criticizing the idea of a standard being tested. That's different. That's a different discussion.
It is.
You know, that's okay to consider as part of the conversation.
Absolutely.
But we've created a cottage industry where there are some companies that are making literally millions and millions of dollars on creating new tests. And that's what we're dealing with.
Thank you, Mr. Rosignol. Mr. Amico?
Through the mayor to the committee, Dr. Levine especially, in defense of our students and our teachers, especially at the high school, I think we do an incredible job, K to 8, to educate our students. and we put them in great positions to go to St. John's Prep, to go to Essex Tech, to go to Bishop Fenwick or other schools. And I think those losses and the gains for those schools definitely impact our scores. Many of us were here on Saturday and Sunday, and we saw the performances by our high school students, the singing, the culinary department. We were sitting there. To me, I don't feel like a level 3 district when we're part of those performances. So all I have to say is, in defense of our students and our incredible staff, from teachers to administration, I think we're doing a great job, and we have some great momentum moving forward here. And it pains me that we're, on paper, we're a level 3 district, because to me, it doesn't feel like it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miko.
I'm done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Next item, written communications. We do not have any for tonight's meeting. Subcommittee reports. Education Subcommittee, Mr. Hockman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What a wonderful way we started our meeting tonight, listening to some elementary students talk about the science textbook that we adopted through the hard work of Ms. Murtagh, leading a committee of over 30 people, I believe, 30 staff members who all had input into that textbook, and how wonderful it is to see how excited they are about learning science. I think the youngest was a first grader we had tonight. Tie that into Dr. Levine's reference of my disdain for the MCAS exam and our level 3 status. You can give me 6 or 7 kids who are excited about learning every day of the week over some state standardized test that was ruined when it started and is being degraded by the federal government as well. With that, our next Education Subcommittee meeting will take place on Monday, October 6th at 6 p.m. here at the Higgins. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Finance.
November 6th, I'm sorry.
November 6th.
I think I might have misspoke. November 6th, 2017, 6 p.m. at the Higgins.
Thank you. Next, Finance Subcommittee, Mrs. Carpenter.
Thank you. In your packet, there is a addendum in there. It's the addendum to Unit A, Appendix B, stipends. There's a list of about 7 different stipends that we are currently funding, and we have been funding for the past 7 years, that inadvertently were not included in the contract for Unit A, and they do need to be listed in there for reasons of retirement and funding reasons. So what we need to do is take a vote to approve that this gets included in the contract. It's already happening. There's nothing that's going to change. So I need to make a motion to include the addendum to Unit A, Appendix B, stipends as listed before you.
Second.
Heard the motion by Mrs. Carpenter, seconded by Mr. Hockman. On the motion, Mr. Hockman.
Thank you. As Ms. Carpenter stated, this was a matter that was collectively bargained between the school committee and Unit A. It inadvertently did not get appended to the contract, but this is something that has been collectively bargained and already approved by Unit A, I believe. We were just remiss in not including it in the contract that we voted on.
You've heard the motion.
And I, as the former chair of the Finance Committee, take ownership of the fact that it was unintentionally.
And I will blame Jared for that, as the new chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. On that motion, Mr. Amico.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to the committee. And point of clarification, that's already been budgeted for, so that's.
It's been going on.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amico. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 One other item is, in the last packet, we did receive a letter from Unit A to begin negotiations, and I did send out an email to pick some dates so that we could reach out to Bruce Nelson and begin negotiations. We did hold off on that a little bit until we set some dates for the superintendent search. So if it's okay, I will resend out some dates to let Mr. Nelson know that we are ready to begin. We just need to coordinate.
Good. Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. On that topic, Mr. Hockman.
On that point, if I could, it looks like we're going to go through a fairly accelerated track for the superintendent search, which might occupy a good part of November. I would just make as a suggestion or maybe a recommendation to ask Unit A, perhaps for a courtesy, to begin those negotiations in December, and hopefully we've concluded the superintendent search before we begin those contract negotiations. Just a suggestion on my part.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. School safety, Mr. Olympio?
Nothing new to report.
Thank you. Athletics and wellness, Mr. Rosignol?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we'll do this in tandem. I'll at least start. In the packet, you have the second reading for the athletic and fine arts performing ticket pricing. Just for the board's edification, we did meet with Mr. Carey and Mr. Simmons yesterday. I let Dr. Levine know that they had a couple of concerns regarding the new policy. I reassured them that they are going to be made whole with any financial decision that we're making as a policy change for this remaining year. The questions that they did bring up that I will turn over to Mr. Stanton is what type of account that this will be moving forward and timing of payments. But that's something that I said that you would reach out to both of them. With that, I will yield to Ms. Dunn regarding quality and standards and the second reading for this new policy.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Rosignol. Quality and standards, Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Rosenwald. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Ignore the one that's in your packet because it has a typo. The paper that you have on your desk is actually the corrected one. The one in your packet mentioned parents. This single one actually is corrected that to parents and guardians. That was language that had been brought up at the last meeting. So what I would like to do is to make a motion that the policy, which actually I also need to let you know, there are two citations which will be placed in this. One will be the citation at the top, so it will be properly placed into the policy manual. The other is just regarding senior citizens. We currently have a policy, and so that's going to be cited in this one just so that they're read together, if anybody ever needed that reference. So I'm prepared to bring forward the athletic, fine, and performing arts ticket pricing policy for its second reading. So moved.
Second.
Heard the motion by Mrs. Dunn, seconded by Mr. Rosignol. On the motion, Mr. Hockman?
Thank you. I'd just like to reiterate a point that Mr. Rosignol just made and make it abundantly clear that it is our intention, I think, as a school committee to remain committed to funding all performing arts and fine arts programs and events. This is just a change in philosophy with how we do that. But we do expect that any invoices or expenses that are incurred or received by those departments will be handled through the business department, the business manager for the public school department, and will be honored and satisfied.
Well said, Mr. Hockman. Mrs. Dunn?
Just to put the information out there, I voted against it before, and I'll be voting against it again. The philosophy is wonderful. I'll be honest, my concerns, as expressed in the past, have been about just the mechanics of this and the actual impacts. I would have felt better. Normally we do research, we get comparisons of how other districts do this, about costs that other districts incur, for ticket fees and charges and things. And I also have some very specific worries because I know that in our budget currently, athletic gate receipts have a line. It's an offset.
16,000.
Pardon me?
16,000.
Oh, okay. But I know that on the performing arts, there is no line for that presently. And so my concern is how the actual mechanics of how it will work. And I would feel better if we knew how the mechanics were going to occur going forward, and that we've made a decision after we already passed our budget. So those are just my concerns. I just wanted people to understand that. But I do appreciate the the philosophy behind this. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 No.
Anything further on quality and standards, Mrs. Dunn?
No, nothing at this time.
City Council and Advisory Board Liaison?
Parent Advisory Board met last night for our monthly meeting, and as you've heard tonight, a couple of different issues have already been addressed. I'll go through a list. I'll be preparing a much more detailed list because the questions need to go to Dr. Levine for his input and his direction on who I have to ask for the answers. So first off, the parents, they're a wonderful group too. They really are so concerned about their schools, and they came through with some really great, it was a great discussion last night. It always is, but it was very good last night as well. We had the questions about the point of sale, the cost of the point of sale, the negative balances, and also about breakfast. There were a couple of specific questions on breakfast programs and how those are being handled in the schools. So I'll prepare a list for you on that. The parents talked about school start times. They wanted to know, if we had started working on that. They're interested in that. We explained that it hasn't been discussed yet. They discussed issues on the playground, and there were questions about playground supervision, playground behaviors. At Peabody Veterans Memorial High School, parking issues have been raised, and those are actually specific for the teacher's parking lot. The parent pickup and drop-off is creating a problem in the teacher's lot, and parents were aware of that because they saw, some of the behavior of people who are blocking teachers in their spaces, or taking the spaces when the teachers need to park there because people are specifically told, which parking lot to go to. There were questions about at the elementary level concerning computer labs and the Chrome carts. A big issue was about communications. That is going to be a bigger topic going forward, but that led us into a discussion about the website. And that was very, very helpful. The parents were able to pull it up on the phones, as we said earlier. They really did enjoy seeing that new website. Only a couple people knew that it was out, so they were very interested in that. And then they also brought up a presentation on December 20th. They're looking forward to internet safety, which I guess the district is putting that presentation on. So they were very interested in that. And questions on school choice, our school choice program, and as well as the status of donated equipment and what the process is when equipment is donated, what it needs to go through in order to be utilized by the district. So again, that's just a laundry list of the topics. Specifics will be sent out. We'll get the answers back and we'll give those to the parents. Our next meeting is going to take place on Monday, November 27th, probably here at the Higgins at 7 p.m.
Okay.
And I look to my colleagues if there's anything else you can remember from last night.
Covered everything.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn.
Thank you.
Building and Grounds, Mr. Amico, anything to report?
Not at this time, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Special Education Parent Advisory Board, Mr. Olympio?
Yes, I'm going to schedule the next meeting to be Monday, November 6th at 7 o'clock, right at the Higgins.
Great, thank you, Mr. Olympio. One item I did want to bring forward, we had an executive session meeting on October 10th, 2017. One of the items that was voted on in the executive session was to release some executive session minutes. I'd like to have a motion made in this session for the release of the executive session minutes of October 18th, 2016, November 22nd, 2016, March 28th, 2017, June 27th, 2017, and July 25th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Further motion by Mr. Hockman, seconded by Mr. Rossignol for approval of the release of those executive session minutes so read. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Mr. Rosino?
If I may, just under new business. It was brought to my attention that currently we do not have a policy regarding siblings and being able to attend a graduation of armed forces or college. So I'm just working on a policy that I'll bring forward for our next meeting so that it can be an excused absence for a sibling to attend a graduation of an armed forces graduate or a college graduate.
Great.
So I'll be bringing that forward for next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Roskineal. All other new business will be handled in the regular course. Items for the next agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Good. Thank you for a good meeting.
Thank you.